pick it up and read it, okay? So you also have like the expert style, which is kind of like a journal article. Anyone ever read a journal article or know what it's about? Raise your hand if you have been exposed to a journal article. Okay, so you know that it can be very dense, it can be very complex because they're really right for people who are in that field or have an idea of what they're talking about. So we're not really going to be on this level, but this is also an example of scientific writing that you may have been exposed to. And this is very general. This is kind of like New York Times, just regular National Geographic is in the waiting room of your doctor's office. Anyone can pick it up and pretty much read it. It's still science information. They're still communicating science ideas, but it's not on the level where you have to be an expert to read it. So you've all been exposed to these things, and so don't feel very overwhelmed about it. It's something that you've been exposed to. You just have to learn how to communicate it. Okay? Any questions so far? No? So we're going to kind of stick with this part of the spectrum for right now, and then as the class moves on, we'll kind of get to that expert level. But for right now, I just want you guys to kind of understand and read very simple journal scientific topics. Okay? All right. So I'm going to move on to the next lecture, and I have a printout for you guys so you don't have to take so many notes. So you can pass this around. Right down the side. So what we're going to do today is I'm going to go over the very specific rules of scientific writing, and by tomorrow I want you guys to take one of the case studies that you did today or yesterday. Was it the Chernobyl?
They did 2 pots. Hologram. It's different from the one that you did last year, but
Okay.
it'll still work.
Okay, great. So you'll take, is it a case study?
Yeah.
You'll take that case study and then you'll summarize it using the rules I teach you today. So pay attention. I've given you all the notes from the lecture, and I've given you a little room on the side to write your own notes. If you are confused or need clarification, please stop me. We can have an all-out discussion. We have plenty of time because I do want you guys to make the most of these summaries. The summaries will be due tomorrow at 11 a.m. And what I typically do is I pick maybe 3 or 4 random papers. I'll block out your name, and then we'll come back tomorrow and we'll edit it as a class. Is that fair? So don't be nervous. I might pick your paper, might not. Yes.
Are we emailing these?
Yes. Does everyone have computer access, internet access?
No,
No.
I don't have internet.
Well, I guess we'll find out when we get back to it.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
should
you
back to
should.
the dorm, and you can always log on, hopefully using somebody else's computer, and do it that way. Or you can come in the morning and submit it that way by email.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and start. Everyone has the paper, the packet? All right, so we talked about this earlier about how scientific writing is a method to communicate information about matters of science. So we got that, got an idea of it. Now let's get very specific. The main point here is to communicate information. Like I said, I don't want to know how you feel about it. I don't want to know how someone else feels about it or how colorful you can make it sound. I just want to know the facts, okay? So the basics. The purpose is to deliver information to the audience. So the audience should be able to read, comprehend, and reproduce information you give. All 3. Okay? So when I say reproduce, that's more towards like lab reports when you start to write up the things you did in lab. Someone should be able to pick up your lab report and say, okay, this is what they did, and do exactly what you did, and hopefully get the same results. When it comes to just a summary that you have to do tonight, when I say reproduce, I mean they should be able to read, comprehend, and actually communicate back to me what they've read, okay? So it has to be very clear, very concise, and if the audience have to ask questions about what you meant, then you have to do it again. It's not valid, okay? Anyone have any questions about that? What I mean by do it again or it's not valid? Concerns? You guys look puzzled. I just want to make sure that I'm not losing anyone. Stop me if you want. Okay. So, like I said before, the purpose of this class, your audience is going to be novice audience. So, one of your peers who's going to be like your roommate in the fall, or someone who's intelligent enough to understand, but not quite an expert in the field. Okay? So, don't feel pressure to be an expert when you're writing a summary. Just kind of give me information that you know. Okay? So, tidbits. You only include information that is pertinent to the topic. You only include information that is pertinent to the topic. You only include information that is pertinent to the topic. I think that a lot of people struggle with this because when you're reading, everything seems important, right? Everything seems like is important to the topic. It's not. I suggest you guys to proofread. I suggest that you guys ask yourself, what is this article trying to tell me, and what in this article is relevant to the main topic? It sounds simple, it sounds redundant, it sounds elementary, but I promise you, when we go over these papers tomorrow, this is going to be a biggie. Okay? Any questions about it? Any questions about finding out what the main topic is? Any questions about finding information that supports the topic? No? Okay. And be honest and unbiased and present opposing sides. So it's really easy for you to communicate scientific matters and kind of put your own bias. Just because you don't say, I believe this or I think this, does not mean that you're not biased. So if there is an opposing side, don't neglect that opposing side. You have to include it also. It's all important to the topic. Is that clear? All right, so we just went over this. So we went over convention, being formal, objective, clear, concise. One thing that we did not go over earlier was fluidity. What do I mean by fluidity? Anybody? Fluidity, yes.
Like the way it flows.
Mm-hmm.
It's like choppy. It's understandable.
Right. Anyone else have anything to add to that? She said the way it flows. Right.
Make the sentences connect, like don't go from one idea to the next. Sentences like have connecting words.
Right. Okay.
Writing in a way so that readers can understand what it is.
Right. One thing I see a lot with students is sometimes in your search to find the main ideas, they will just circle the main sentences and then they'll summarize in their own words those sentences and then put them together. And when you read it, it's like, okay, talking about this here, that here, and this and another thing here. To prevent this from happening, you may have to read whatever you're summarizing more than once to really understand what you've read. If you find yourself going through and summarizing main sentences, it's going to sound choppy. I guarantee you. It's going to sound choppy. When someone reads it, and when you read it aloud, we're not going to be able to follow you. So just make sure that to prevent not being fluid, just make sure you summarize the main ideas in your own words. Understand it and then pretty much summarize it. Okay? Questions? This is also a biggie. I'm taking my time because I know that these are the mistakes that we're going to run into. Okay. All right, so concision. So what did I mean by concision? Pop quiz. What do you say by concision? Or to be concise?
Get to the point.
Get to the point, right? Anyone else? So I like to think of concision in terms of dictionary versus thesaurus. So in scientific writing, which one do you think would be the best, dictionary or thesaurus? Who says thesaurus? Who says dictionary? So anyone from the thesaurus side want to tell me why?
The source would be the most clear and like straight to the point because you're finding synonyms for words.
Okay. Dictionary side?
Well, you have to put the difference between the words and similarity of the words, so therefore you have to know exactly what the word means if you've never seen it before.
Okay. So I'm gonna go with the dictionary side because just like my whole catch example, catch is a synonym for contract in some ways, but when you get to the definition of the word, really one word is right. So when you're in school, in high school,